Welcome to Residential Tech Talks. I'm Jeremy Glowacki, Executive Editor of Residential Tech Today. In this episode, I'm joined by Bjorn Jensen, the CEO of WhyReboot, a South Florida-based company that specializes in creating commercial-grade networks for residential, commercial, and luxury marine environments. With so much stress being put on computer networks in our current environment of virtual meetings, online learning, and streaming home entertainment, it seemed like a great time to talk to someone who really knows how the backbone of a network for the home or business can be kept running efficiently and free from cyber attacks. Bjorn Jensen, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Jeremy. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, so those who may be familiar with the company, but not so much about how it came to be, could you give a little bit of the backstory and how you came to form WhyReboot as a company?
Yeah, so I always had a deep love for home automation and was really interested in it and thought that I was going to start the first home automation company ever and didn't realize that people had already been doing it for like 30 years.
Okay.
So I was the IT manager of a place in South Florida where we did networks for hospitals, law firms, health insurance companies, that sort of thing. And I always professed my love for home automation to people. And so one day, one of the office managers for a large doctor's office told me that her husband worked at a home automation company and he wanted to speak with me because they wanted to offer me a position as the IT director. So I jumped at the chance. He came over and we talked for a little bit, and it turns out I was going to be taking a pay cut, but I took it anyway because that was kind of the field that I wanted to get into.
And then I realized about what year was this, just so we have a kind of a timeline?
2003, maybe.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah, it was a while ago. And then I started realizing that what I was doing for them there, networking was kind of just starting to become a big thing in the industry. Crestron was recommending using Linksys WAP54Gs for the wireless, for the network. And these devices just weren't cutting it, especially for large scale Crestron systems. It just wasn't cutting it. So I started to use what I knew. I was putting in Cisco access points, Cisco switches, enterprise grade stuff, and managing the traffic a little bit better. And we would see instantly everything ran better. So I started thinking, why just work for this one company and do this for them when I could keep them on as a client and start offering this service to other companies? And so luckily that was a tough decision. I just had a baby boy, and now I'm completely leaving what I'm doing and starting my own company. It was definitely a tough decision, and it was very stressful. But in the end, it worked out well. I mean, I luckily had, the one client, which was where I used to work. They were gracious enough to understand what I was trying to do and kept me on. And then a lot of the Crestron programmers that we've been working with, the Capes, they knew that their systems, their programs worked better on our networks. So they started telling, whatever integrators they were dealing with, hey, if you have trouble with your network, hey, it's not our program. It's not the program, it's the network. Use this guy.
Okay.
And so we started to kind of pick up more clients that way, and just through word of mouth, we've managed to grow quite a bit over the years.
So just so I understand and listeners understand that you're not so much manufacturing or creating products, but you're using the best in class kind of products to pull together a system for a specific installation that is robust enough and secure enough to handle the amount of traffic for that particular home or business, right?
Yeah, I mean, I basically look at it as, if you buy a router from Cisco, let's say, they get the screws from China, they get the chips from Japan, they get, the housing from Korea, and they put it all together as one thing, sell it with a manual and sell it with a certain amount of support, so we're doing that on kind of a macro scale where we're taking all the individual pieces. We're taking the firewall from SonicWall, we're taking the switching from Ruckus, access points from Ruckus, and we're putting it together as one full system, pre-configured with support, all white glove, just taken care of for you, Also, that includes design as well, including heat maps. I mean, we try to take care of everything to make it as stupid simple for people as they want, but we'll also sell parts. We don't just sell the whole systems. We can also sell just wireless if you want, or let's say Crestron, not to bring them up again, but maybe someone's doing an NVX system, and they don't really know how to do that, or their bandwidth requirements are a lot more than what they're used to handling. So we'll just do the switching side, maybe do a switch stack for a large NVX system, or we'll just do the firewall if someone's interested in network security. So it's any of those pieces or the whole thing, but we try to maintain to be laser focused on core networks and not going outside of that. We don't do backup systems, we don't do phones. It's just the core.
And I know in the early years of networks being a part of home entertainment systems that, everyone was entertainment focused. They were home theater experts or video experts, that type of thing, audio, acoustics, but networking was just a foreign language for a lot of companies. And I know that's evolved and there are a lot better, well-rounded companies now, but do you have like regular relationships with integrators that just hire you for any certain size job then, and you just design their network? Or are you is it just very specific to, I guess, the size or something that you're typically having to be called in for?
It depends. So it kind of runs across the full spectrum. We have some people that use us for everything. They're just like, you know what, we don't want to deal with it. We want you to deal with it. Yeah. And they see a value in that even though there is a certain, price point to get into one of our networks, they end up saving a lot of money in troubleshooting, truck rolls, frustration for the client, frustration for themselves. It's just better just to make sure that works, and then you can worry about all the other things and not have to worry about the network. Right. Then we get people that, they'll use something on a lower end for most of their jobs, and then for the bigger jobs, they pull us in, or it's something where someone has a very specific use case and what their guys are used to dealing with, they don't know how to do that, so they're trying to do something they've never done before, and they know that we can take care of it for them. Okay. We see so many different network devices, so many different things, working with so many integrators, that it kind of increases our education above what somebody would see if they're just pigeonholed in one company all the time, because they're seeing the same products, the same way of doing things all the time. We're seeing people doing things all over the place, and it helps us. It helps us also then for some new product comes in and we're like, oh, okay, well, that's like this product that we saw over there. So we can try to figure out ways to fix that.
And I mentioned in the intro that you are commercial, residential, and luxury marine, which is actually, part of where you are based. There's yachts and things like that down there, right? So how much are you doing on the commercial side versus resi, and how often does the marine thing come up?
Marine thing doesn't come up as often as it used to. Not sure why, but it's never really been a big focus of ours. It's just kind of fun to deal with when it does come up. And that's the thing with commercial. Originally I didn't want to do commercial at all. I mean, I shunned it just because it's no fun. It's easy money. You can get in there, and most of the time they have their own IT departments as well. Yeah. And it's very simple, but it's really no fun. I really like this industry. That's why I wanted to get in the home automation industry, So unfortunately, the world doesn't work that way. And our clients also do businesses, and they like what we were doing for the home stuff. And then some of the homeowners also, they want their offices done the same way. So we kind of got dragged into it. And at this point, it's just, yeah, we'll do it, whatever you want. It's no fun, but I have trouble saying no to good partners. I mean, we love our partners. They're awesome. So many of them are so good at what they do, and I can't say no to them.
So not fun in what way on the commercial side?
I don't know. It's just boring. There's
yeah.
It's you're dealing with file servers and people's QuickBooks accounts and just no fun devices. I mean, even a thermostat can be fun. You're not really seeing that in a business space. I mean, sure, they add them in there, but it's just not as many bells and whistles.
Right.
You don't feel like you're creating something cool. You're feeling like you're just creating some rubber stamp thing that's the same everywhere.
Yeah. So I know that you're putting together pieces to make a system, but you have created some products, some problem solvers. I remember specifically at an HTSA meeting, you called me to, come check you out at your little setup table, and you'd created fairly low tech, but very problem solving storage container for the in-ceiling, hiding a wireless access point, I think it was.
Yeah,
Have you done some of that, more inventive, creative stuff as well along the way with your company?
not since that one.
Oh, okay.
I had no idea what I was getting into bringing a product to market. I mean,
Hmm.
it's really, I was warned. I was warned, first of all, how much it was going to cost, and I didn't believe it. I was like, well, it's just a box in the ceiling. How much
Yeah.
could that really cost? It costs a lot.
Hmm.
It's crazy.
Oh boy.
And just the legal stuff behind it, and tooling, manufacturing, shipping, tariffs. I mean, all
Wow.
these things I never had to deal with. Figuring out what your HS code is for the tariff that's coming in. I mean, it's been a huge learning experience. It's amazing. I mean, if I had a ton of capital, there's so many things I would want to create. But this was my baby, just because we do a lot of heat maps. In fact, we're the only company in the world that does predictive analysis for homes to be Wi-Fi certified by the Wi-Fi Alliance.
Okay.
So we do a lot of heat maps every week. And so, we also offer that as a free service to our partners. To this company, we don't offer it for free, but for our partners that are using our systems, we do it for free. And, they're always asking us to hide APs in closets or behind TVs or things like that. And then we give them the heat map and they're like, well, why are there so many APs? It's like, well, if I move the APs out into the open, you're going to use less, so you're selling less APs, but that's better because the customer gets a better end user experience because the AP is closer.
Mm-hmm.
It's already such a high ticket item. It's better to make it less expensive for them so they don't gripe about it and they don't cheapen out on it.
Right.
And then you can sell more systems overall, instead of just trying to sell a bunch of APs in one. And so I looked all over the place for a solution to get the APs out in the open to satisfy homeowners, satisfy designers that just don't want to see anything. They're okay with seeing a smoke alarm, but you put an access point up there and the whole world's melting down. So there was nothing. There's a few companies out there that do commercial ones that are for commercial, where you can still see the access points, see the LEDs because they want to be able to see that stuff. Nothing that would really hide it, nothing that was universal.
Yeah.
Because normally when you get one of those mounts, there's a bracket made specifically for whatever access point you're using. So you have to buy the bracket that goes into the mount, and then you have to screw it in, and you're still sitting on a ladder holding your arms up and arms getting tired trying to align things in. And I figured there's got to be a better way. So I came up with a ratcheting system that uses Dyneema cables, which is stronger than steel by weight and stronger than Kevlar. That basically you just put the access point in, you turn a knob, and it tightens the cables around the device. So any shape of device, any size, it just holds it in place. And there's a tension spring in the back to make sure that it doesn't lose tightness over time.
Mm-hmm.
Also on luxury marine or something like that, so that even earthquake, it's not going to come down.
Okay.
And so basically a technician can go back in a year or 2 years, service the AP or replace it with a completely different model in less than a minute with no tools, because it's got a magnetic cover. It's also paintable.
Yeah.
Just pull the cover down, unlock the mechanism, and the Dyneema loosens. You pull the AP out, put another one in, ratchet it back up, pop the cover up, and you're done.
And so you are, despite all the challenges of having a manufactured product, you're still putting these in the systems that you're designing?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a few going out today.
Okay.
And we still have thousands left, because we were actually, Lennar Ventures was very interested in it.
Okay.
We showed them the prototype and they were like, we've been looking for this forever. We want this in every single one of our homes. And so, they do like 100,000 homes a year,
Mm-hmm.
So we were thinking, great, so to keep costs down per unit, you have to manufacture more. So we manufactured a lot. And then once it was ready, we went to them and they said, oh, we have to cut costs everywhere, and this is the first thing to go.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, but learning experience, definitely. And we do have a great product. I mean, it's the best access point mount on the market by far. It works really well and people love it. And it's not just for access points. Screen Innovations is now using it for their Z-Wave gateway as well. They're selling it on their website under a different name, but that's our product.
Oh, cool. Okay.
People are using it for cell antennas. Some people put switches in there.
Hmm.
Some guy tells us he hides his gun in there.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
I mean, whatever. It
As
could be
long as
used
you
for pretty
can
much anything.
move that inventory, right? Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Well, Bjorn, I want to dive into what you were like as a kid because we always do that. But first, we need to take a short break.
Thanks for listening to Residential Tech Talks. Today's episode is brought to you by Sony. Sony's OLED TVs and Master Series meet the strict criteria of the top engineers and makes beautiful images a reality. Their 4K HDR TVs pair the brilliance of 4K with the brightness, color, and detail of high dynamic range. See how every scene comes to life with extraordinary realism. Discover a new level of immersive cinematic audio at home. With Dolby Atmos and acoustic surface audio, you'll enjoy three-dimensional surround sound that takes your breath away. See everything new from the world of Sony USA, including electronics, the new PlayStation 5, movies, music, and TV shows. Visit www.sony.com to learn more.
Welcome back. I'm talking to Bjorn Jensen from WhyReboot. You are a bit of a tinkerer, as you've said. Were you like that as a kid as well? Were you kind of like the kid that takes apart toys and other things? Or
That's exactly the kind of kid I was. Yeah. Unscrewing everything, and then, unfortunately, most of the time I put it back and it wouldn't work anymore. But
of course,
that's how I learned things, is by breaking them, and then that's how I learned computers. Really, was by breaking it and fixing it. So yeah, it's helped me out over the years. But yeah, certainly I've always wanted to create things. So that's kind of what's led me here.
And your creative side turned into working with computers and animation, right? You were doing some stuff in high school.
Yeah, so I loved computer animation. And this is, I remember when Terminator 2 came out, and I was like, oh my God, I know how they do that, I was the videographer. We're not the video editor for our school. We had a brand new school TV station.
Cool.
And so I actually made an intro animation as well. I was using an Amiga 4000 computer. I don't know if you know what those are.
Yes.
It had so what I really wanted was the NewTek video toaster, which was responsible for TV shows like Sequest, Babylon 5. They'd never been able to make TV shows, a weekly show with computer animation before, just because the computers that were required, it would just take way too long to render the frames. But an Amiga could do it, and with the video toaster, you could do it. Now, I never got my hands on my own video toaster because they're really expensive. I remember I got a memory upgrade for my computer that was some ridiculous amount of money for like 8 kilobytes of memory. But I managed to kind of get a job at Miami-Dade Community College after school, where they would let me use their computers with the video toaster if I would help teach the class. Because the professor was teaching it from a book, and I actually knew how to do this stuff.
Okay.
And so it was great. They would let me use the gear. I would just, if someone raised their hand, I'd go and like help them out, help the students out. And they would actually render all my stuff for me as well onto Betamax, which I didn't have a Betamax player. So I've got all these tapes at home that I can't do anything with, but I thought it was really cool,
Yeah, that's a super cool experience and rare opportunity for a high school kid. But yet, I saw in your bio that you went on to Florida State and studied business instead of going into like a tech, I guess like an engineering, degree or something like I'd think you'd probably go into, or maybe computer science. So that having a business degree sounds like a brilliant idea if you can handle it. But why that decision as opposed to studying tech?
I should have studied tech.
Okay.
Yeah, I really should have, because then I would have been interested in it. School just didn't interest me, and I couldn't get out of there fast enough. It was definitely a mistake. There's so many interesting classes I could have taken that would have really piqued my interest, and really, at the same time, if I had done that, I would probably be working for somebody else now.
Sure.
In a job that may or may not be as fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, I have no regrets because I'm doing everything that I want to do right now. When I was a kid, I used to always think it'd be so cool if you had a job where people just send you cool stuff to test.
Yeah.
Like cool gadgets and things like that. I'm living that life right now. So it's awesome. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, venturing out on your own and creating a business when you had a job, that's a huge risk, like you said, and the fact that maybe you had a little bit of that background in school to know how a business should be run. Maybe I don't have a business degree, so maybe
Yeah.
I'm over giving it too much
No.
credit. But
Yeah,
I wouldn't
no.
have the guts to do it. Maybe you just were insane at the time or something. But
Well, I figured it was now or never,
yeah, sure.
either I'm going to be continuing doing this, working for somebody else, or I'm going to go out on my own, do my own thing. And, that way, because there's always pluses and minuses to having your own business, right?
Mhm.
It would be so nice sometimes to just be able to, 5 o'clock, that's it, go home, not worry about anything. The weekends, don't worry about anything, but then my destiny is always in someone else's hands. Even if I have a boss that I love, they could screw up, they could do something that through no fault of my own, now I'm out of a job.
Yeah.
This way, if the company fails, it's my fault. I did
Mm,
something wrong.
sure.
And so it's all up to me. And so that way I don't have to rely on somebody else for that. Although I do rely on my wife more and more every single day. She started working as like a part-time thing, just doing taxes and things like that,
Okay.
and then doing billing every once in a while. Now she's full-time. We need to find her some help as well.
Mm. Well, you've got low overhead, it looks like. So that's a smart thing. Not too many mouths to feed, right?
Yeah, well,
That helps.
it's growing. We actually just hired another guy as well who's starting on Monday.
Okay.
So it's, we've tried to grow organically, and not, it's interesting. People always ask us why we're not at CEDIA, why we don't have a booth. And what a lot of people don't know is we actually had a virtual booth this year at CEDIA, but not under WhyReboot, because I don't want people to come to our booth and we all of a sudden get a ton of people all at once. It was actually under Paramount for the access point mount. And we didn't mention our name at all, because I'm worried that we'll pick up too many people. And what we sell is support, really. I mean, anyone can sell the products. We're selling the design, configuration, support. And so if we get an influx of new clients, something's going to break somewhere. We just won't be able to give the same level of support that we give now. So it's better to just grow organically, little by little. And I mean, we've been growing pretty much exponentially since the inception about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So I don't see a need to explode and take on 1 million new clients and then let our reputation suffer.
Sure.
It's better to do it this way.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you was the challenges on the network since the quarantine started, the global pandemic, challenges of everyone's on Zoom calls and doing, remote learning and that type of thing. Have you seen changes to what is required of your clients' networks since like March when things really got crazy?
I don't think there's been changes to requirements. I think there's been changes into people realizing that they need something else. The requirements have always been the same. They're kind of realizing now, hey, this, with all these extra people on the network, schooling from home, working from home, we just need to really get a full upgrade. Not to mention you have people that were living in New York in the city. And then when this happened, they escaped the city to their houses in the Hamptons or wherever, and they never really needed a full network over there. And now they're trying to relax and live there, and they're really seeing the need. So I think, it's just people's perceptions have changed.
Okay. Yeah, that's a fair way to say it. One of the things that really came up a lot prior to COVID was cybersecurity. It just seemed like cyber attacks were the big story on the network side. And I don't know if we're distracted with COVID to the point where we're not talking, other than the election, which it did come up. But are you still seeing a lot of, is there stuff out there happening that we don't know about that's not getting covered? Or is it pretty quiet right now, but you're still doing what you do to protect the networks that you work on?
It's happening every day. I mean, there are more threats every single day than there ever were before. It's just, what does the news shine the spotlight on? It depends on what they want to make you scared of today.
Yeah.
I'm sure tomorrow there'll be a reason for them to do it, and they'll shine the spotlight. But unless there's a reason, they don't really do that.
Yeah, nothing's really shut down though. Like we've had some in the past where you've lost your access to services because there's been a big attack, right? This is not something that we've seen lately, but you're in your job, and part of it being somewhat of cybersecurity, you have to be vigilant all the time, obviously. What are some of the best practices still that it seems like it's always very basic things like don't, click on attachments and things that, it's obvious to me, but at the same time, if someone's really clever and you're dealing with someone that's maybe not as savvy, they could easily fall prey to an attack, a phishing scheme or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say, and not too deep of a long answer, but what would you say some of the best practices still are for cybersecurity, just in action or protecting the network that you created?
I mean, there's always the low hanging fruit, right? The easy things that you should be doing every day to try to protect yourself. Like, like you said, you hear the same things all the time. Strong passwords.
Yeah.
Try not to do any port forwarding if you can. But there's other things now, like, you really want a layered approach. So a simple firewall at the gateway might not be protecting you completely. It never will completely protect you. You also want to have some kind of system on whatever device you're using as well. You might want to use certain DNS servers that clean traffic as well. You can't just take one of these things and think you're protected. It really kind of needs to be everything all at once. And even then, the biggest hole is the user themselves.
Yeah.
From something like a phishing scam or something like that. That's always going to be. I mean, if I was trying to hack into some major corporation, I wouldn't try to hack in through their firewall. I would try to hack in through a user.
And can you basically create a strong network with good security and be good for a little while, or do you really need to have a specialist that's always checking on the network just to make sure nothing is happening? Because I think, high net worth people probably do have that, relationship with their integrator or their network specialist that comes in and checks on things. But your average consumer, it seems like we barely can keep our networks going, and we don't have a clue what to do with the security side of it. So it seems like it's a moving target. Is that kind of the case?
It's always a moving target. And that's part of the problem is that, a lot of our networks don't have the security services on them because it tends to be very expensive. These are enterprise grade devices. And for instance, SonicWall, they don't make their money on the appliances they sell. They make it on the security services. And they have teams of people, checking new threats all the time, checking out how they work, how to protect against them, how to clean these things. And so the security services are really what provides the biggest amount of protection, but they're expensive. They're yearly, 3-year, 5-year subscriptions.
Okay.
They're very expensive. I do have it in my office. I do have it in my house because I believe in it. SonicWall actually has a pretty cool feature that's sandboxing that not a lot of other vendors have, which theirs is called Capture ATP. What happens is if a signature hits the firewall that it's never seen before, and it checks its local database, doesn't see it, checks the worldwide database, doesn't see it, it'll send it up to the cloud to explode on every operating system from Linux, Mac, iOS, Android, everything, even at the processor level, to see if it's a threat. If it's a threat, it blocks it. If it's not, it allows it through. So it'll actually stop 0-day threats like ransomware that someone changed a little bit so that it won't be seen by a regular antivirus program.
Okay.
And it works even on encrypted traffic. So it's a big thing, but that's a subscription fee that is a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, especially if you're doing, if you're trying to get gigabit internet. So now you have to have an appliance that's strong enough to have the horsepower to scan all these packets going in and out of the network at that speed, and that gets very expensive. Prices are coming down. I mean, to give you an idea, maybe 6-7 years ago, to get a firewall that could do that at gigabit speed, it was between $12,000 and $15,000.
Whoa.
And people would put that in their home, sometimes two, because they want a redundant unit. Then, a few years ago, it went down to about 6 to 8. Now it's dropped down even more, about half that. And actually, we're about to be announcing some new models that are going to drop down even further, which is great.
So that's a hardware cost, and then there's a subscription price on top of that, or is that
that's hardware and subscription together?
Okay.
Those prices that I was mentioning.
And
so if you're just doing without the security, the appliance is a lot less expensive because you're not needing something with the horsepower to scan all that traffic.
Right.
So if we just want to use so SonicWall has really good routing functionality and packet monitoring and things like that, that a lot of other devices don't have. We have a lot of granular control over how traffic works. And so just the SonicWall alone, just the appliance alone, is worth its weight in gold to me. But then adding the security services on top give you that layer of security. But I mean, the other reason we use SonicWall is because they never break. I've been using them since 2002, and we've only had a handful ever break. So we give a limited lifetime warranty on all of our indoor gear. SonicWall doesn't give that to us. Ruckus will. So if switch breaks, a limited lifetime warranty means as long as it's not end of life, they'll replace it. SonicWall doesn't do that. They should, because they never break. So we'll pay for it out of our own pocket if it breaks, because they don't break. So if it does, I'll pay for it, just to give our clients that warm and fuzzy feeling they're going to be taken care of no matter what.
Sure. Well, one of the other things I wanted to touch on was Wi-Fi 6. It's been, covered a bit, and I've read up a little bit on what the added benefits are over 802.11ac and previous versions. So could you just kind of go over how you explain Wi-Fi 6 to clients and what the advantages and updates are to it?
Yeah. So, one advantage that consumers will like is that with target wake time is a new feature in there that basically allows the devices to not spend a lot of energy scanning the network. And what that's going to do is increase battery life a lot on your devices. Not having to get a new device, just your existing device. If it is Wi-Fi 6 compatible, your battery life's going to get better. One of the biggest improvements is Ofdma, which basically allows, in the past, wireless was always a half duplex medium, where it was like a walkie-talkie, where if you want to talk, you have to wait for everyone else to stop talking, click the button, and then you talk, and then you release, and then you wait. That's what wireless was. And so if you were talking, you're using up that whole frequency while you're talking, right? No one else can use it. But that's a waste if someone's just sending a tiny bit of traffic and you've got maybe this much and then someone else has this much, but you've got all this frequency to use. So now with Ofdma, you can actually chop that up and allow all those people to talk with the amount of traffic that they need at the same time. So you can imagine how much that improves the speed of the network.
Yeah. But for Wi-Fi 6 to be useful, you have to switch out all of your wireless access points and that sort of thing, or how?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what I keep telling people about why they should spec it now anyway, is because it's going to be kind of the gift that keeps on giving. So right now you're going to get a boost in performance just because the kind of modulation, 802.11ac used 256 QAM, which is quadrature amplitude modulation. Now we have 1024 QAM. So it just has much more, well, it just adds a bunch of speed to the network. The problem is that modulation doesn't work well over distances. So you really want to get your APs closer to the devices to see those upper end speeds, but what's going to happen is as more devices are compatible and you start getting rid of those legacy devices, you're going to be able to see that performance because now devices are going to be able to talk within the same channel space.
Okay.
And that's going to be, it's just going to keep getting better and better as it goes.
Okay. Well, so the last topic that I really wanted to touch on was 5G, and everyone's hearing commercials about 5G, and it seems like it's already happening, and our phones say it's there, but it's not really. And, I've heard that it's going to be great for autonomous vehicles someday. And I just wonder what your take is on really what we're going to see most in the near future with 5G as it rolls out in certain areas of the country. And will it be useful in the home? Will it replace the need for having Wi-Fi, or will we still kind of want to have a local sort of network, and then 5G is really just for outside the home?
Well, if you take it from me, I'm always going to want a private network. So my cameras at home, they're not connected to the cloud. And there's no port forwarding. You can only access it through a secure VPN.
Yeah. So
talking is making my throat tickle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And that's why I keep drinking this water too. It's just trying not to cough. I'm like sitting here trying really hard, like don't cough.
I could sense that was happening. I was trying to give you a little longer time on my question, but I guess not long enough. So that's clearly something I hadn't thought of, which is the home security angle, and in general cybersecurity, that you wouldn't want to open up everything that you have on your phone to 5G, but in your network. So, what would you say you see the 5G really being an impact on initially? Can you predict where the low-hanging fruit is for 5G?
Yeah, I mean I know gamers are going to love it because
true.
I mean pretty much anything that can take advantage of low latency, remote medical, remote surgeries, things like that as well. I mean anything that really is dependent on low latency, even phone calls, video calls, that sort of thing.
True. Yeah. Anytime that you're out and you need to make a connection and have it be faster and have no lag, that makes perfect sense.
So real time with what you're doing, if you think of a doctor that's doing surgery remotely and he's making an incision, it needs to be doing exactly what he's doing remotely at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have any lag at all. And that's really where 5G is going to be the big help here.
Okay. Very cool. Are you seeing it in South Florida being rolled out? I know I've seen some antennas around the Midwest where I am. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, so I know that the Miami International Airport has a rollout. The Miami Arena does as well.
Okay.
Or not the Miami Arena. What's it called? It's where the Heat play. I forgot the name at the moment.
Oh, I've forgotten.
I'm not a big sports guy, but
the best. You just called the best NBA Arena in Miami. Yeah, that's
right. There you go.
Right. So those kind of almost like localized sort of. It's like an expanded Wi-Fi kind of scenario, but you're using 5G instead.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be interesting to see the rollout because you need a lot more antennas all over the place.
Yeah.
Just because of the higher frequency.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. They're not as high. They're a lower level. They're not like a cell tower. They're like at a sign level, right? They're more visible.
Yeah. I mean, just because you have to get it closer to the connected devices. So the way I explain this to people is, if you think about frequencies, because the same is true for Wi-Fi. The 2.4 gigahertz frequency goes a lot further than 5 gig. It also permeates walls easier. The way to think about that is if you hear a car coming down the street blaring music, you hear the bass before you hear the mids and highs. So you can hear the bass coming in before you start hearing the tss. And that's because the higher the frequency is, it doesn't travel as far, and it also bounces off walls instead of going through them. And so it's the same thing with 5G. It's a higher frequency. You're going to need devices closer to it to get those faster speeds and to be able to even reach the devices.
Okay. So rollout's going to take a while just because you're going to have to put up so many antennas for the network.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, we won't put you on the spot any further on trying to predict the future for 5G, but I really appreciate all your time today, Bjorn, and your throat needs a break, so we're going to wrap it up.
I'm sorry about that, man.
You're good. No, it happens. It's that time of year. So thanks so much for giving us some insight into the network.
No, thanks for having me. Really, this was a pleasure.
Also, thanks everybody for joining us. Be sure to comment, share, or subscribe to the podcast. And you can check out all the latest residential tech news at restechtoday.com. Until next time, please stay safe, stay inspired, and let us know if you have a great story to tell.
Residential tech talk, lighting specialist to residential tech. Home automation, smart device, home or smart house.